hair from anywhere and cleans around that dish in a flash. You can even store it in your glove box for the ultimate car vac. Clean seats, the floor, and deep into those hard-to-reach places. Other bulky hand vacs sell for up to $150. But get the Horsepower Duck hand vac for just $39.99. Order right now and we'll upgrade you to the Duck Pro package, a $30 value, yours free. You get the bendable tube to get into tough spots like under appliances, the crevice nozzle to reach into those cracks and crevices, and the soft brush nozzle to vacuum gently with no scratches. You'll get the Duck with all the deluxe attachments, but supplies are limited, so there's a strict limit of 3 per order. This may be your last chance to get yours at this low price. So don't delay. Duck it up today.
To order, call 1-800-692-0144 or visit duckvac.com. So call 1-800-692-0144 or visit duckvac.com. Order now.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Wednesday, 29 October in the year of our Lord 2025. This is a special edition of Real America's Voice in the War Room. We're doing live coverage of this historic meeting between President Trump and the dictator of the Chinese Communist Party, Chairman Xi. You see right there, this is the president arriving just moments ago, what we call the Beast. He's heading, they're actually going to meet at a conference room or conference facility at the airport. They're in Busan, South Korea. And so the president's right there. He's got his Secret Service detachment, other senior members of his cabinet. It's been nothing short of a triumphant trip to Asia. Began in Kuala Lumpur, then it went to Japan. Historic deals, trade deals with the countries of Southeast Asia. Then a really, I think, the best trip any American has made, president to Japan. Just absolutely incredible. There's the president and the Beast pulling up right now to the conference center. President Trump will get out with his detachment of advisors, cabinet members, officials, and of course security, and then enter the building. We're going to be here the entire stretch of this, at least for a couple of hours. There's the president right there. I want to thank the great footage we're getting from this. This is Busan, South Korea, moments ago as President Trump arrives at the conference center. He's arriving first, got there a little early. Actually, we were going to start the show with this, but I really want to thank the team over at 6B. And just to remind everybody, 6B, Studio 6B is going to kick off the campaign coverage next Tuesday night. Make sure you're with us next Tuesday night. There is the President of the United States. He's going into this conference center. He's going to have his contingent of folks with him. Of course, our own Monica Crowley, the ambassador for protocol, is with him.
Perfect.
Absolutely incredible. Okay, let's go ahead and cut to the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi.
No.
We need to go ahead and do that. Okay, there's the American contingent. I want to thank our Real America's Voice crew. Everybody's up late tonight. Is that Xi right there?
Yeah,
That's a little too tight cut. I wanted that kind of car rolling up. But you've got the arrivals. He's there. There's the contingent right there. Much larger, obviously, than the President of the United States. It's quite large. It's unusual, I think, for Xi to travel with that a lot. There's our own Monica Crowley right there. Can we get that? Can we cut it so we can actually show him rolling up from the thing? Maybe not just show me. Anyway, fantastic. Let's get the longer cut, and then we can play it. Forrest, who's Yu Zhu, is with us. Forrest, put into perspective how important is this, particularly from the Chinese? You're head of the new federal state of China here, which is kind of a government in exile on alternative to the Chinese Communist Party. As the Chinese people look at this, look at that. I got to tell you, that is a quite large entourage. There we have it right there. And we're going to go as soon as there's any opening statements, etc. But I think they should go and actually meet first. And we're going to play this one by ear. Forrest, how big is this, particularly as what he projects to the Chinese people, sir?
Well, first of all, I think this is a historic because this proves us that the CCP's approach in a half-century long, planned, deliberate planned, strategic planned, attack or a strategy worked. Now we are facing a situation we have to face. I mean, the U.S. has to talk with them. The CCP has this approach. They open the economy to acquire all the foreign technologies. They have this fusion program where the military fusion with the civil system. And then they also stolen all the technologies and also gain the capitals from Western country, infiltrate the West country. And they strategically acquire all the materials and resources. Now we're at a point they put the knife on our throat. You have to talk with them. So I think this is historic. I think in the history, American at this point, I think it never happened before. Now we have to negotiate, make a deal with the CCP because they are 20 years, 25-year plan worked. Now we are at this point. We need to talk with them. It's not whether we want to, but we have to. So in terms of this, I think this is a historic meeting. The U.S. is the first time. Of course, to Chinese people, this is also telling Chinese people, CCP enslaved Chinese people for more than 70 years. And their strategy worked, not only overseas, but also in China. They inflated all the, real estate market and they enslaved people, got their cheap labor. Chinese people are hardworking people. They make all the goods for the country, but the CCP got all the money. What they use for this money, actually, they use this money, infiltrate the West free world and attack them. So this is also historic. They tell the Chinese people now, if you see the economic numbers, it's very bad. But now Xi Jinping basically controls both sides. Inside, he controls Chinese people because he doesn't care whether the Chinese people can eat grass for 3 years, but outside he can use all the strategic resource, supply chains to threat the free world. So this meeting is huge. I think it's historical. I really want to see the result of this meeting.
Okay, Forrest, hang with us. You're the head of the new federal state of China. You're going to be with us throughout the evening. Right there, that is a live shot of part of the conference room. They're obviously going to meet behind closed doors for most of this, but there may be a little ceremony at the beginning where they come and shake hands, etc. They're playing this by ear. There may be a press avail afterwards. I doubt it, given Xi, but we'll have to find out. Like I said, this whole thing was fairly impromptu. A couple things happened. We have CNN footage. There's the president. There's the president right there. Let's go ahead and get the audio.
Mr. President, the President of the People's Republic of China.
Good to meet you. Great pleasure to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Me too.
And we're going to have a very successful meeting, I have no doubt. But he's a very tough negotiator. That's not good. We know each other well.
Mr. President, do you plan to sign a trade deal today?
Could be. I think we'll have a great understanding. We have a great relationship. We've always had a great relationship.
我们之间的关系很好，关系总是很好。那问他是不是还在为美国的大众 Will you discuss Taiwan, sir?
Which way? Thank you very much. Please.
Wait, nobody else is going to the meeting?
Okay, we're live. We're live at the conference room. You saw a short little ceremony. They shook hands. The president, as his normal self, let's just hold it on that shot as long as we can. President Trump being very gracious and talking about the great relationship they had, and they're going to have a meeting, and she's a great negotiator, always trying to put people at ease. She, a man of few words, I don't think responded to any of it. But as far as, did you pick up, I know they were translating what President Trump is just his typical normal self of trying to put people at ease and saying, he's a great guy. We have a very strong personal relationship. He's a tough negotiator. I don't know if that's going to help us. These little asides President Trump does. He gave Xi every opportunity to kind of jump in and share the camaraderie. I noticed that was not reciprocated. Did we just miss it as Westerners? Did Xi respond to anything? I know they were translating for him in real time, sir. No, he didn't respond to any. Actually, it was he just smiled a little, but there was no response at all, language-wise. And I think he's already pretty determined, and we have our intelligence tell us that he's going to talk about Taiwan. He has a couple kind of preconditions for this meeting regarding the Taiwan. When he really attacked Taiwan, what he's expecting the U.S. not to interfering and also not to support Taiwan. Not comments in the invasion. So I think that's the precondition he's already determined. So that's why you see his facial, expression is quite, intense. It's quite tight, without any response to President Trump's, wording. So that's what I can tell. And also, if you see the very tight security around him, we all know what just happened in China. Just 2 weeks ago, he purged like 9 generals in China. So he himself actually is very, very, although he's still in charge, he has power, he's in control, but he's really worried about the safety, everything around him. So that's why we see a heavy security surrounding him. We're going to keep our normal breaks as we do here. We want to thank our sponsors and, of course, Real America's Voice with the crew in Denver to put this on, and really extraordinary. This is very much like the situation we did, the live coverage of President Trump's time to Israel. Right there, you see the press pool. We're going to keep that shot. Our own Brian Glenn did not make the trip to Asia. This has been one of the most extended trips President Trump's ever taken. Forrest, one thing before we go to break. President Trump was going out of his way to be gracious, to be collegial, to try to show some camaraderie. He mentioned how that he and Xi had a great relationship, that Xi was a tough negotiator, that he was glad they were meeting, was really going out of his way. And Xi, although he didn't have a scowl, kind of has that look that he always has, which is, I don't want to call it smug, but it's this kind of half smile he has on official occasions. But he didn't respond to President Trump at all, although it was being translated to him in real time? No. Not with word. Okay, hold on. Let's cut to the room right now. There's Scott Besson. Let's go ahead and pick up on the audio.
Keep going. Keep going. There's one by you as well. Keep going. Keep moving. Keep moving. They're going. That's China. U.S. here. Go. You got it? No. Can't get to our sticks. Camera. Off now. Let's
You have Susie Wiles, Scott Bessent, Secretary of State, Rubio, and, of course, Secretary of Commerce Lutnick, the group right there.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected President of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. And it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. And it feels very warm seeing you again because it's been many years. Since your re-election, we have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. And our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other. And it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations. I always believe that China's development goes hand in hand with your vision to make America great again. Our 2 countries are fully able to help each other succeed and prosper together. Over the years, I have stated in public many times that China and the United States should be partners and friends. This is what history has taught us and what reality demands. A few days ago, in the latest round of consultation, our 2 economic and trade teams reached basic consensus on addressing our respective major concerns and made encouraging progress. This provided the necessary conditions for our meeting today. Mr. President, I am ready to continue working with you to build a solid foundation for China-US relations and create a sound atmosphere for the development of both countries. Mr. President, you care a lot about world peace, and you are very enthusiastic about settling various regional hotspot issues. I appreciate your great contribution to the recent conclusion of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. During your visit to Malaysia, you witnessed the signing of the Joint Declaration on Peace along the Cambodia-Thailand border, to which you had provided input. China has been helping in our own way Cambodia and Thailand properly settle their border disputes, and we have also been promoting peace talks to resolve other hotspot issues. The world today is confronted with many tough problems. China and the U.S. can jointly shoulder our responsibility as major countries and work together to accomplish more great and concrete things for the good of our 2 countries and the whole world. I look forward to exchanging views with you on questions important for our 2 countries and the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to have you all. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, why did you change your nuclear plans? Why are you going to be doing more nuclear testing?
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, press. Let's go. Time to go.
Okay, let's keep that shot as long as we can. That's the meeting room that they're going to be at. And Jameson Greer, Ambassador Jameson Greer, was the U.S. official next to Susie Wiles. close to the cameras right there. So the entire team, you've got Bessent, you got Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, Lutnick, Commerce, Susie Walsh, Chief of Staff, and you've got Jameson Greer, the trade rep. President Trump, they're kicking it off, and we're going to be here for the entire time. Dr. Bradley Thayer, that question that's on the top of everybody's mind, take a second. What's happened over the last 24 hours with North Korea and Russia? And President Trump just responded, I believe it looked like when he was on the tarmac going into the meeting, he sent out a Truth Social. And if we can put the Truth Social up, Denver, I appreciate it. But there's a framing of this meeting that also has a geostrategic and national security element to it that's maybe over and above what people thought, and that is nuclear weapons. Dr. Thayer.
Yeah, Steve, thanks so much for covering this important issue. The totality of this critical meeting, as Forrest indicated. The truth is extremely significant, and it's important to note really three elements here. First, he's referencing the size of the U.S. nuclear arsenal, which is important because the numbers of warheads that the United States has is very important in the nuclear balance between the U.S. and Russia, and now the U.S. and the People's Republic of China, which has greatly grown its nuclear arsenal. Second, he's referencing nuclear testing, or he's saying testing on an equal basis. And that has to be understood, perhaps not that he's discussing testing a nuclear weapon, but testing a nuclear delivery system. And that is important because Russia just tested a cruise missile, a nuclear-capable cruise missile, and then secondly, what they call their Poseidon nuclear torpedo. So two different delivery systems, one being an air-breathing, air-launched cruise missile, the second being an underwater, of course, torpedo that could have a very large-yield nuclear weapon that in the Russian characterization would detonate and send a massive tidal wave, a tsunami, against a city. And that actually goes back to one of the Soviet Union's first delivery systems, which was using a similar system. And then thirdly, that has to be understood, too, in terms of messaging. The Chinese, the Russians, and the North Koreans, that the United States could return to nuclear testing, and the United States is going to test perhaps existing delivery systems or develop new delivery systems in response to what Russia has been doing, and then more broadly in terms of what the tremendous growth of the Chinese Communist Party's nuclear arsenal. So a very significant tweet that got a lot of people's hearts pounding, I think, in the media. Of course, that was the first question that was asked and around the world. So the United States hasn't tested a nuclear weapon since 1992, although we regularly test our delivery systems. For example, the Minuteman III or the Trident II, the D5 submarine-launched ballistic missile. So I think that tweet has to be, or the truth has to be seen for the significance that it is, and those three messages are really being conveyed. The United States is going to maintain its nuclear arsenal. It's going to maintain what President Trump is identifying really as superiority in its nuclear arsenal. It may return to testing. It's certainly going to test delivery systems, and it's going to match whatever the Russians are doing or the Chinese. So very significant truth, Steve.
But Forrest, I'm going to come to you in a second. But Dr. Thayer, given that what the Koreans did, I think, was yesterday, or the North Koreans did was yesterday, the Russians, I think, 24 hours ago, why would the President of the United States meeting with Xi on, we're talking about the defense of Taiwan, chips, all of it, why would he put something out about the nuclear arsenal and maybe going back to testing, something we haven't done in 33 years? Why would he choose, essentially when he was on the tarmac getting ready to go for the meeting. Why do you think he would do that?
Because Sub Rosa is also signaling directly Xi Jinping, right? That the United States has a very robust nuclear arsenal that could be deployed to defend its allies, countries to whom we have an extended deterrent like Japan, but also would be involved in defending Taiwan as well. Should communist China attack it, which is, Steve, as you've stressed many, many times, increasingly likely. So the message is also sent to Putin in the Ukrainian context, as well as to Xi, that the United States is a formidable nuclear power and has superiority. And should they try anything in the conventional well, an attack on Taiwan or Russia increased levels of aggression, or perhaps nuclear testing, right? If the Russians do take that step after having tested the Poseidon torpedo or a cruise missile, if there's some type of very low yield test or even some type of subcritical test, what are called hydronuclear tests, where you just very briefly bring together compressing a pit to very briefly bringing about a first stage or a fission reaction of a weapon. So very important messages that Trump is signaling. Sub Rosa in that Truth Social. Don't try it, because the United States still has escalation dominance in the nuclear realm. He's telling both Xi and Putin, and of course Kim in North Korea.
Is that a attempt at a loss of face? Is this one of the reasons you think that maybe Xi was a little cooler in his? President Trump tried to show camaraderie and a long relationship, and how they were not friends, but they got along. But Xi was quite standoffish. Do you think it was their perception is that, hey, this guy just sent this a couple minutes ago from the tarmac before he came in here? Is he trying to challenge me right off the bat about his nuclear arsenal, sir?
Absolutely, Steve. That's Xi did look almost as if he's passing a stone there, right? I mean, he was very unhappy to be there.
Hold it. I just want to make sure hang on. I just want to make sure you agree with me. I've done a lot of this. I was at the one in Mar-a-Lago in 2017, and we followed these guys closely. Our association with the new federal state of China, the whistleblowers, the Committee on the Present Danger of China, all of it. We watch an awful lot of Xi. Given President Trump's outgoing personality about this, Xi looked like he was passing a stone, did he not?
He did. And so Xi's going to be hitting Trump hard on Taiwan. And again, the truth is signaling Xi that the United States has dominance due to its nuclear arsenal, should he try anything. So it's a very important statement. The Sub Rosa, the political warfare context of that truth has to be noted as well, in terms of what the context, in addition to what the context really of that truth is. So Xi definitely looks very unhappy at that meeting, because what Trump has done is bested him. Right, is he's going to come in and read Trump the Riot Act on Taiwan, and President Trump has just told Xi Jinping, don't even think about it. The United States still has superiority, and you're a long way from having the capabilities to push the United States out of an action or from an area to which it's made a commitment. And so that may be certainly Taiwan, and certainly our allies, again, Japan, the Philippines, South Korea, Australia, and other states.
Doctor, hang on one second. We're going to go to break. Forrest, real quickly, got about a minute. Xi's kind of response overall to Trump. Do you think it's a reaction to President Trump basically on the tarmac, sending out, hey, my nuclear arsenal is big and we're going to upgrade it, modernize it, and test it, sir?
Yeah, I think maybe part of that. But as I mentioned, he's coming in with predetermined. He wants to address the Taiwan issue. That's the main thing. Other than that, all the other things, whether it's trade, whether it's coins, whether it's the rare earths, he can talk about the trade. He can talk about, but Taiwan is his main thing. That's why he showed that face. He's not responding too much because I think that's his strategy right now. Yeah, even when after President Trump said a few words at the table, she just looked at his notes, just read through the note. He didn't even respond with a thank you to start with. That's what I can tell right now.
A little cold, a little distance, but and Farser's reporting that they've actually told the United States they have a precondition with this whole thing. It's about Taiwan. Taiwan, advanced chips, all of it. We're going to come back. Natalie Winters is going to join us later. Jack Posobiec. We got Brian Kennedy. We're here for the duration on this historic meeting between the President of the United States and the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party in Busan, South Korea. Short break for you, Night Owls. We'll be back in a moment.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. It's fall, and that means America's favorite sport, football, is back. And Angel Studios has brought a brilliant and inspiring movie about a 59-year-old man who still wants to play the game.
Knock me down, I don't feel pain.
Mike, you're right, you always will be, but you can hit.
After nearly 4 decades, almost 60-year-old Mike Flint returns to his alma mater because he never finished his senior year due to being thrown out for fighting. Actor Michael Chiklis, whom you'll remember from the TV series The Shield, stars in this true story about a man who has unfinished business.
You better get out of my face, little man.
Get out of my face! Nothing matters if I can't be out there with my team.
He has a chance to redo his senior year.
Flint believes that we aren't defined by our successes, but by our regrets. And he says he's had a lot of them, as a teammate, as a husband, and as a dad. The senior reminds us that it's never too late to get in the game and turn things around. You can watch The Senior by going to angel.com/Rav and joining the Angel Guild, a community of like-minded viewers who want to see superb quality content. So get back in the game, relive your dreams, and head on over to angel.com/Rav.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Mama Love in northern Minnesota. You know, a collective voice is much louder than a single voice. Thanks, Rav, for giving us a place to chat and connect. See y'all in chat.
Howdy, Rav fans. This is Warbringer here. Love you all. Rav is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
Mr. President, the President of the People's Republic of China.
Good to meet you. Great pleasure to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Me too.
And we're going to have a very successful meeting, I have no doubt. But he's a very tough negotiator. That's not good.
但是他是很强硬的谈判者哦，这不好。
We know each other well.
我们相互之间非常了解。Mr. President, do you plan to sign a trade deal today?
Could be. I think we'll have a great understanding.
但是我们会达成很好的
We
理
have a
解。
great relationship. We've always had a great relationship.
我们之间的关系很好，关系总是很好。
我们之间的关系。
那问他是不是还在为美国的大众 ？Will you discuss Taiwan here?
下面问题。
Which way? Thank you very much, everyone. Please. Are you good? Yes. Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor to be with a friend of mine, really for a long time now, if you think about it. The very, very distinguished and respected President of China. And we will be having some discussions. I think we've already agreed to a lot of things, and we'll agree to some more right now. But President Xi is a great leader of a great country, and I think we're going to have a fantastic relationship for a long period of time. And it's an honor to have you with us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President Trump, it is a great pleasure for me as well to meet you. And it feels very warm seeing you again because it's been many years since your re-election. We have spoken on the phone 3 times, exchanged several letters, and stayed in close contact. And our joint guidance, China-US relations have remained stable on the whole. Given our different national conditions, we do not always see eye to eye with each other. And it is normal for the 2 leading economies of the world to have frictions now and then. And in the face of winds, waves, and challenges, you and I, at the helm of China-US relations, should stay the right course and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations. I always believe that China's development goes hand in hand with your vision to make America great again. Our 2 countries are fully able to help each other succeed and prosper together. Over the years, I have stated in public many times that China and the United States should be partners and friends. This is what history has taught us and what reality demands. A few days ago, in the latest round of consultation, our 2 economic and trade teams reached basic consensus on addressing our respective major concerns and made encouraging progress. This provided the necessary conditions for our meeting today. Mr. President, I am ready to continue working with you to build a solid foundation for China-US relations and create a sound atmosphere for the development of both countries. Mr. President, you care a lot about world peace, and you are very enthusiastic about settling various regional hotspot issues. I appreciate your great contribution to the recent conclusion of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. During your visit to Malaysia, you witnessed the signing of the Joint Declaration on Peace along the Cambodia-Thailand border, to which you had provided input. China has been helping in our own way Cambodia and Thailand properly settle their border disputes, and we have also been promoting peace talks to resolve other hotspot issues. The world today is confronted with many tough problems. China and U.S. can jointly shoulder our responsibility as major countries and work together to accomplish more great and concrete things for the good of our 2 countries and the whole world. I look forward to exchanging views with you on questions important for our 2 countries and the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's great to have you all. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, why did you change your nuclear plans? Why are you going to be doing more nuclear testing?
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I stand corrected with the help of even my glasses can't see the screen that well from here. That's Ambassador Perdue, David Perdue from the great state of Georgia. It's ambassador to China, and a executive who spent many years in Hong Kong as a executive of an international company that had a lot of manufacturing other pieces in China. So he knows China quite well. Old China hand. Not a decoupler, though. Before I go to Natalie, Forrest, real quickly, I caught there they did say preconditions to even have this meeting. I just want you to repeat. You're saying the precondition was that we would already agree on some different relationship with our defense of Taiwan as a precondition to even have this meeting?
Yeah, because that's his demand. That's his full demand to the U.S. So before he can talk about other issues, that's his demand. So when he attacks Taiwan, the U.S. has to not support Taiwan militarily or politically, because U.S. cannot provide any political asylum to the Taiwan leaders. You cannot provide any military support, any supply, and also, when that happens, U.S. cannot comment about the invasion. That's his demand.
Well, that would be quite explosive if that comes out of this meeting, and that's been agreed to. Anyway, we'll get to that as we go through the evening. Natalie Winters, you've spent a lot of your wayward youth investigating the subversion of the Chinese Communist Party in the United States and throughout the world. You know how these guys roll. Tell me your thoughts about this kind of opening of this historic meeting with President Trump going out of his way to try to put things at ease, and Xi being quite stony-faced.
Well, look, I think the original sin of sort of the PRC's worldview, you see it on full display, even euphemistically there, which is the lie that they want to exist in a sort of multipolar world order. We know what they want. It's a unipolar world order whereby they become the new United States. They become the new global hegemon. And I think even just from an interaction perspective, you see that with the way Xi Jinping is acting towards President Trump. And I think that this summit, this meeting right now, really is historic, obviously, but I would contextualize it as we are going to see if sort of through that Thucydides trap paradigm, if Athens or Sparta wins, if the United States wins or if China wins, either this is going to be the point in which we deviate or sort of deflect from what I think a lot of these so-called China hands and China scholars have predicted, or if we kind of continue along the path that we are certainly on, certainly under Joe Biden, where we see China essentially surpassing the United States, whether it's in the AI arms race, the tech space, the defense space. And I think it's important too, I think Forrest really hit the nail on the head, right? Let's take the Taiwan issue as a prime example. This is not about peace, right? This summit, this meeting, this is about positioning. And China, I believe, is going in. Frankly, I think I would say with the upper hand when you look at the rare earth, the critical minerals, the magnet stuff. And this is about them, I think, gaining just a little bit more time before you see kinetic action in Taiwan. Why do I say that? Look at what he's been doing in terms of the military purges, getting rid of the number 2 generals, the increased militarization, whether it's, air, land, and sea, every which way, every permutation of drills and exercises, you name it, around Taiwan, but also in the Scarborough Shoal, areas all around the Philippines, you name it, right? Planting Chinese flags on minor outlying islands. They're even doing these simulations, basically Taiwan, taking over Taiwan simulations in Mongolia. The list goes on. If you look at their most recent 5-year plan, just a few weeks ago, it reads more like a battle plan than an industrial plan. You've seen what they've been doing with the Coast Guard off of Taiwan. So I think it's just important to sort of view view, how China is approaching this, right? Like we always say, they think in terms of decades, we think in terms of years and presidential cycles. And you're seeing this, frankly, on full display with a host of issues. I think the Taiwan issue is probably the most pressing one. But of course, you have the chips, too. And I think that, Steve, this is yet again this kind of ugly civil war between us and the, fake populist tech bro right, where you see that sort of bubbling up to the surface on the chips, right? Obviously, there was a lot of discussion about the H20s, as you are very right to call NVIDIA Jensen Huang a foreign agent. I don't even know if he's an agent. I think he's just straight up foreign. I don't even know if you have to register with FARA, because I think he's just essentially operating like a Chinese national. But the new chips that they're pushing for, the B30As, are twice as fast, 18 times more productive. The whole list goes on. And again, like I said, this is the chip aspect. If you compound that with the Taiwan stuff, it's just important to note that they're coming in with the upper hand. Like I said, it goes back to really how are you going to see this Thucydides trap play out. I don't think the pulling out the pom-poms just because Trump is sitting across the table from him necessarily means anything. But we're always optimistic here in the War Room, and I should say happy 1-year anniversary to you. I thought when you get out of prison, it wouldn't mean that I have to be up at 10 p.m. Joining you, co-hosting. But no conspiracies, no coincidences, right?
We're really crimping Natalie's style tonight. If I'm to believe the mainstream media about your social endeavors, we actually got her. It's a side room over at Butterworth's. Natalie, you got a bunch of pieces.
No, definitely not. It's all the United Front. I'm very busy with that.
We're going to go to a break. We've got Natalie Winters with us. We've got Forrest with us. Dr. Thayer's with us. Poe Sobek's going to join in a little while. We've got many other guests we're going to bring in here, analysts and observations. Michael Pillsbury, the 100-year marathon, I understand from Jack Posobiec, maybe lighten up President Trump over at Fox. We're going to pull that. Fareed Zakaria had a very interesting conversation about the chips with Jensen Huang of NVIDIA. We're going to have that. We've got a lot to go into. Natalie's got a bunch of stories she just broke today on her Substack. We're getting all that. I want to thank Birch Gold for being our sponsor, also for helping educate our audience about physical gold as a hedge. The gold market's bouncing all around. You got to find out what this all means, the pattern recognition of it all. Make sure to take your phone. I think the easiest way, just text Bannon at 989898. You get the ultimate guide to investing in gold and precious metals in the age of Trump. Do not forget silver. And check it out. You get access to Philip Patrick and the team. He's got a lot to say, particularly about the de-dollarization efforts led by, wait for it, the Chinese Communist Party. They have an overall strategy that they've been executing on, I don't know, for 30 or 40 years. Unrestricted warfare. President Trump from the tarmac sent a Truth Social, I think, Gabriel's attention, said, hey, China, they've got a good arsenal. Number 3, a distant third, but catching up. Didn't seem like that sit too well with the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party. Back in a moment.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of the Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore.
Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with RAV. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in, be counted, be heard. Together, we are RAV.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
Hi, my name's Paul Poyer. I'm Poyer04 in the Getter Chat. I love RAV for all the Getter, all the War Room Posse, and all of you guys. Love y'all. Bye.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, there's a meeting going on in Busan, South Korea between the President of the United States and the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party. It's going on right now. Kind of a chilly reception. Our observation team thinks. Of course, Farr says, hey, it's more just business as usual. He's got something to get down to. And what he's saying is that the United States may have already given a wink and a nod on the defense of Taiwan. That will be that would be something that we would find quite shocking, not just for the defense of the chips, but the historic defense of Taiwan. So not just what the official party line is, but what we've actually kind of done a wink and a nod for, 30, 40, 50 years. Natalie, on your Substack, you got some great breaking stories. Walk us through that before we go to the top of the hour.
Sure, two quite timely pieces, I think. Here in the war room, we like to get very granular with Chinese Communist Party compromise, particularly on the media front. A lot of these talking heads, people writing articles, the experts that they always go to for commentary, if you could believe it, are deeply in bed with the Chinese Communist Party, particularly a lot of their foreign influence groups. One individual who just a few months ago was overseas participating in an event with the China-United States Exchange Foundation, which is one of the foremost, if not probably the leading sort of foreign influence co-opting groups trying to get Americans and Westerners to peddle pro-Beijing talking points. He's been really working up a storm. He's been quoted in NBC. He's been featured even in Chinese state media, the South China Morning Post, Carnegie Endowment, the whole sort of think tank orbit, talking about how President Trump's tariffs and trade negotiations aren't successful, that he should be careful, essentially going after China, which is, the great hegemon in the region. Of course, they never disclose these ties, but even I think more concerningly on the nuclear front, one of Harvard's top nuclear scholars, a guy ironically by the name of Stephen Miller, certainly not President Trump's Stephen Miller. He's also a director at the Belfer Center, which you may recall, Steve, we really I think exposed and shined a light on in the Biden years, since so many of the upper echelons of his administration came from that Harvard Kennedy School offshoot. But he recently was actually over in China. This one's almost more damning, not even just affiliating with the United Front, but actually affiliating with Chinese think tanks that are explicitly linked to the Ministry of State Security. That's their spy espionage apparatus. But we've even seen Americans actually be indicted for spying after having been recruited for appearing at Shanghai Academy of Social Science events. And the real buried lead with this individual, Stephen Miller, is that he co-leads Harvard's essentially nuclear energy project on managing the atom, and was formerly a nuclear lecturer over at MIT in terms of defense and arms control. Obviously, clear why China is targeting this individual. But Steve, I think this goes back to sort of what you first asked me when I came on, which is, what is this summit about? It's not about negotiating peace. It's not about, we're not coming to this meeting at an even hand. So many of the American experts that you see talking about this are not even American, right? They're American in name only. They're on the payroll, either explicitly, implicitly, directly, or indirectly, for either explicitly Chinese groups like the Shanghai Academy of Social Sciences or some of their proxy groups. But I just think it's important to sort of see who you're taking your information from, because, like I said, so many of these people are not really Americans. I'd call them traitors. I'd call them treasonous. But this is just the latest information warfare that we got going on.
What? When are these universities going to be called out? Because even in President Trump's restructuring of these deals, the CCP part of this virtually never comes up. You hear anti-Semitism, you hear woke, you hear anti-American. You've got these progressive professors, on the payroll, but you never hear about. First of all, you don't hear about the Arab funding. You don't hear about Qatar and the money they put in, but you certainly don't hear about the Chinese Communist Party financial commitment and subversion of these institutions of higher learning and all the think tanks that are around it, as long as they got the Harvard logo. Why is that, ma'am?
Well, look, I think the largest beneficiary of wokeness, of this, anti-Semitism scare that we're seeing on these college campuses is the Chinese Communist Party, because the light is off of them and it's off of rooting out these other sort of figment of the imagination problems. And to answer your question, well, I think it sort of is answered in the question itself. It's because they're bought and paid for, and I think we haven't seen any meaningful reform coming, at least from Congress, in terms of trying to understand where exactly these dollars are flowing from. Even if I wanted to sit here and tell you Harvard's taken an X amount of cash from the Chinese Communist Party, I couldn't even actually tell you that. It's the sort of game that Washington loves to play, famously right under the Biden regime, when we're trying to get answers about how much how much American farmland is owned by Chinese individuals or companies. Well, the government hit back and said, actually, it's not a problem. You are all conspiracy theorists because we haven't done a report and we haven't actually collected any information on that. It's like, well, that's not exactly saying that there's no Chinese farmland owners. That's just saying that you haven't gathered that data. So that's sort of the problem I would probably extend out. That's what they play with the COVID origins game and the COVID vaccine game, right? They don't want to supply us with the information that's just going to, yet again, vindicate the war room theory of the case. But in the limited instances that we've been able to dive into the funding, I'm inclined to bring up Harvard's Ash Center, which routinely puts out report after report talking about how strong support for Xi Jinping is and how great the Chinese Communist Party is. According to them, they're actually not authoritarian. They also were busy training the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corps, which is a sanctioned entity that helps essentially run the Uyghur genocide up in Xinjiang. But this group, when they very briefly had listed their donors, it was a bunch of Chinese state-owned enterprises and Chinese individuals. They quickly stripped it. Same with the Penn Biden Center, right? Or at least Penn more broadly. It wasn't really clear if it was going to the actual Biden Center. But this is the game that they intentionally play. And I think the most important point, the Select Committee on China in Congress is an absolute joke and a farce. We don't need more reports or long-winded letters about what threat that the Chinese Communist Party is, or that it's bad that they're giving money to universities. We know that. Do something about it. Change the law. Stop just using the China issue to inflate the defense budget and do nothing meaningful with it.
Wow. What a hammer. Fantastic. Natalie's going to be with us. We're going to look. NVIDIA, Semaphore got the headline. NVIDIA reached $5 trillion in market cap today. Remember, it was a couple of years ago, Apple reached $1 trillion, and people thought, wow, this is amazing. $5 trillion. The agent of influence for the Chinese Communist Party. Yes, that's what he is. Jensen Huang. We're going to do a long cut of him with Fareed Zakaria. We've got Forrest. We got Dr. Bradley Thayer. We got Natalie Winters. We're going to be joined by others later. You're here for the Real America's Voice War Room live coverage of the historic meeting in Busan, South Korea, between the President of the United States, that would be Donald John Trump, and the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, Chairman Xi, with everything on the table. Short break, back in a moment.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
About a year in prison.
We were prosecuted, persecuted.
J6ers have been treated like terrorists.
And we need your help.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
For just $10 or more, you can help these patriots get back on their feet again. Every dollar you give is being matched up to $50,000. Go now to j6support.com and donate today. Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of the Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore. Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news.
This is the primal scream of a dying regime. Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, Wednesday, 29 October, year of our Lord 2025. As Natalie Winters was so nice to bring up, this is the 1 year anniversary, my 1 year anniversary of leaving federal prison at 3 a.m. in the morning. Captain Bannon met me, and it's that photograph I've got up on my Getter account. You ought to go to Getter if you want to keep up to date with everything that's been happening. I've had that up there for a year. Never thought a year from that time, I'd be doing the 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning shift here on Real America's Voice in the War Room, but we're so glad that Real America's Voice gave us the support to do this, because we're going to bring in top analysis throughout the evening, because this is historic. There's a lot on the table. Number one, let's be brutally frank. The Chinese Communist Party have a knife to our throat because of these magnets or heavy rare earths that, as Natalie's brought up many times, we sold basically under the Obama regime. We sold, administration. Biden was an illegitimate regime. Obama was just an incompetent administration. With Joe Biden in charge of things, they bought essentially the processing business for heavy rare earths. I believe it was in Ohio. Bought it for, I think, $500 million to $750 million. Excuse me, not billion, $1 million, under $1 billion, and that is what has become their strategic advantage. She knows this. There's some talk about maybe the cutoff of the heavy industry, because remember, if they get cut off hard, it is 5 to 6, 7 weeks before the Ford Motor Company production lines grind to a halt. So they got to say, we also have the chips, particularly the Blackwell chips, as Natalie just talked about. They want those, and I keep saying on this AI arms race, the first thing we have to do is get control of our own house by cutting off the Chinese Communist Party. You got to cut them off hard. If you don't do that, you are in a Sputnik moment. So we're going to have Jensen Huang. I just want to go back. In fact, I'll get this semaphore story up. Headline of Ben Smith's Semaphore, NVIDIA reaches $5 trillion in market cap. And there are an awful lot of people on Wall Street who made a lot of money on this stock as it's risen. Some people say it's way above its valuation. This is part of the AI bubble, but the AI jobs apocalypse is here. We've warned about this for a while. It's happening, and they're trying to cover it up in every. Now, the report that got leaked to the New York Times, Amazon, 600,000 jobs. 600,000 jobs that are just not about robots, but 600,000 jobs are going to be not going to be hired. People are not going to be hired because of artificial intelligence. Target the other day, 1,000 managers. That means white-collar workers, most college grads, 1,000 at their headquarters in Minneapolis are being eliminated. And they say they've got a fancy, it's really data analytics and the way we use technology. It's artificial intelligence to cut out layers of management. We tell you we've told you many times that the first wave of cuts, and they're going to be massive cuts, are going to come from white-collar workers, particularly those folks just getting out of college, starting off in their 20s, that need to learn kind of the 20s. You're the apprentice learning all the customs and what your profession has. You've got to learn in your 20s. That's the basis for everything else. Those jobs are going away. Administrative, managerial, and tech. Learn to code that. So right now, Jensen Huang, I think, is the richest guy in the world, maybe by an order of magnitude. He's President Trump's new bestie. We've got a 5 or 6 minute clip here from CNN. I want to play it in entirety. Then we'll bring Natalie Winters-Forrest and Dr. Thayer back in. Let's go ahead and let it rip.
This week, NVIDIA hit a historic milestone. It became the first company in history to hit $4 trillion in value, surpassing other tech giants like Apple and Microsoft. The success comes from its computer chips that drive today's artificial intelligence revolution. They power everything from chatbots like ChatGPT to robotics to self-driving cars. I sat down with the man behind it all, Jensen Huang. He founded NVIDIA more than 3 decades ago and still leads the company as CEO. We'll get to his thoughts on the future of AI, but I first want to show you what he had to say about the extraordinary competition developing between the United States and China for dominance in this field.
Jensen, let me ask you about this U.S.-China race that everyone talks about, and let me put it to you this way. For the last 3 administrations, Trump 1, Biden, and Trump 2, there's been actually a bipartisan consensus that what we should be doing is denying China high-end computing power and capacity by denying them the highest-end chips. You have said that this strategy has backfired. Explain what you mean.
Because depriving someone of technology is not a goal. It's a tactic. And that tactic was not in service of the goal. The goal, of course, is that United States and China now represent a unique relationship that hasn't existed in the world for a long time. 2 incredible countries, both would like to succeed, both would love to prosper, both would love to win. We would like United States to be the world leader. There's nothing wrong with that aspiration, and we should definitely try to achieve that and strive for that. In order for America to be the world leader, just like we want the world to be built on the American dollar, using the American dollar as a global standard, we want the American tech stack to be the global standard. We love that the internet was created by American technology and is built on American technology. And so we should continue to aspire for that. In order for us to do that, we have to be in search of all the AI developers in the world. And as it turns out, China is incredible in AI because 50% of the world's AI developers are in China and Chinese. And so our mission, properly expressed, in order for America to have AI leadership, is to make sure that the American tech stack is available to markets all over the world so that amazing developers, including the ones in China, are able to build on American tech stack so that AI runs best on the American tech stack.
But what if in doing that, you also are providing the Chinese military, with Chinese intelligence, with the capacity to supercharge, to turbocharge their weapons with the very best American chips, which are yours.
We don't have to worry about that because the Chinese military, no different than the American military, will not seek each other's technology out to be built on top of it. They simply can't rely on it. It could be, of course, limited at any time. Not to mention, there's plenty of computing capacity in China already. If you just think about the number of supercomputers that are in China, built by amazing Chinese engineers that are already in operation, they don't need NVIDIA's chips, certainly, or American tech stacks in order to build their military.
Let me ask you a broader question. What difference does it make who gets there first? Because at some level, you've described this as electricity. So if it's a kind of resource that's going to be sprinkled into every industry everywhere, just like, Edison invented electricity, but the Soviet Union started to use it. Everyone will use AI, particularly given that there are open source models now. Let's say I'm a company. I want to use AI to make my sales force better. I use DeepSeek, or I use Llama, or I use OpenAI. Does it matter whether it's American or Chinese?
In the end, I don't think it does. The DeepSeek R1 model is revolutionary. It's the world's first advanced, open reasoning model. It's downloaded millions of times. It's used all over the world. There were concerns about that it was trained in China and that it could be dangerous for that reason. First of all, there's no evidence of that, and whatever evidence there is, if anybody has it, you could just fine-tune and distill it out. And so the technology itself is really completely incredible. The open source nature of it empowered startup companies, new industries, countries to be able to engage AI. Your question about does it really matter who gets there first? I think in the final analysis, I don't think it does. However, I believe it is core to the American spirit to want to be the world's best. We should want to be the world's best in computing technology. The computer industry is one of America's national treasures. There is little doubt that this industry that I'm part of is the world's best. And the computer industry is an industry by which every industry is built on.
So I asked Bill Gates this question of whether putting these bans on China actually had the effect of spurring China to develop its own industry at the high end, and that therefore it was counterproductive. He said, yes, I believe it's been counterproductive. Do you think the same thing?
Let me give you an analogy. The recent ban on rare earth minerals has spurred the American industries to, as quickly as possible, gain independence of rare earth and magnets at a level that I don't think we've ever seen. And so there's case in point.
So if it happens to us, it must happen to them.
That's right. The fact of the matter is, we are competitors, but we are highly interdependent. And to the extent that we can compete and both aspire to win, it is fine to respect our competitors. They're not doing anything that we don't want to do for our own people. They're not doing anything that we don't aspire for ourselves. And so we ought to go and compete and innovate and race fast.
Okay. This thing banning and ranting and saying this guy's an agent of influence, he's beyond an agent of influence. That's the biggest load of crap I've ever heard in my entire life. And if the U.S. government keeps giving that guy's contracts, I don't care if the company's worth $10 trillion. Did we both aspire a murderous dictatorship? Go ask that Lao Beijing out in the hinterland how life is under the Chinese Communist Party. We got Forrest here from the New Federal State of China. And Forrest, I'm going to get to you in a second. Natalie Winters, you are, I think, one of the top, if not the top, investigative reporter on all things CCP here in the United States and abroad. Your response, ma'am. Yeah.
All right, are we good? I think we're good. Can you hear me now?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was
know
saying,
it's late.
I
know it's late, Natalie. But you got to learn how to use that.
I had a very tough 4 months last year, filling in for a certain someone who felt the need to ignore a subpoena.
Next. Hold on. Hang on. I want your response. Hang on. We're going to take a short break. I want the response right afterwards. By the way, are you whining about Next Man Up? You did such a magnificent job. No whining in the war room. I don't care how late it is. Boy, we just heard from Jensen.
Next woman up.
Next woman up. Man, that man is broadly determinative. Okay, this is the problem you saw right there. These are the type of guys that are in President Trump's ear nonstop. And Xi's comment said, hey, they did come to some kind of consensus. Remember, Forrest said there's already these preconditions that have been negotiated with Scott Bessent and others. Now, Forrest happens to think that there could be some big developments potentially happening about Taiwan tonight. We'll see. President Trump sent a missive or a missile from the tarmac in a Truth Social that said, about these nuclear arsenals. And we're going to not just upgrade ours, we're going to start testing ours again. And it's going to be, you're not going to be able to overcome it. I think they got Xi a little on the back foot here to start things off. Jensen Huang, I got to tell you, up in your grill with nothing but insane happy talk. Natalie Winters, Forrest, Dr. Thayer are going to break it all down next in the War Room.
I got American heart. I got American faith in America's heart.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered. Through every storm, every moment of uncertainty,
everybody needs to pray for Charlie Kirk right now.
Rev has stood strong.
We're not going to tolerate this stuff anymore. Turn that anger into motivation to save this nation.
When we move together, there is power.
The cries of this widow will echo like a battle cry.
This is more than news. It's a movement.
This revolution of people taking their countries back.
A turning point. A chance to be part of something greater than yourself. Scan the QR code and stand with Rev. The story isn't over, and neither is your part in it. Step in. Be counted. Be heard. Together, we are Rev.
We will achieve American greatness. And we are just getting started.
Hi, my name's Paul Foyer. I'm Foyer04 in the Getter Chat. I love rap for all the Getter, all the War Room Posse, and all of you guys. Love y'all. Bye.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because we have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
America's Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored, and it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
If Denver can please put up, before I toss to Natalie, Semaphore, Ben Smith, Semaphore story they just put up tonight at the close of trading, NVIDIA at $5 trillion market cap. It wasn't that too long ago, might have been a decade now, I've kind of been out of finance, when Apple reached $1 trillion market cap. It was like, oh my Lord, we're starting a new age of sunlit uplands. Just think $5 trillion, $5 trillion, and people on Wall Street have made so much money off this. They're talking about this AI bubble. It's really focused around this stock and kind of how this whole thing washes through the system, right? How somebody puts in an order and then all of a sudden that's kind of double counted. Who knows? But Jensen Huang, the guy you just heard from, is not just the richest guy in the world or close to the richest. He's probably the most powerful because they're making these chips, and he did, as a technological genius, make some decisions years ago that really bets that paid off big league. Natalie Winters, you spend your life listening to this stuff. Your assessment, ma'am.
Well, as I was watching it, it seemed like it was a dubbed translation, and you may have well just had the Chinese Communist Party speaking on his behalf, because I don't really think there's much distance between what he's saying and at least what they sort of euphemistically push through a lot of their explicit and implicit, party organs. I think it's important, right, to understand that NVIDIA is not just in the business of selling and moving chips, but this is about sovereignty. And I think you see him missing the point. I think, frankly, the most egregious thing that he says is when he talks about how the Chinese Communist Party threatening export controls on both rare earths, critical minerals themselves, but also the processing materials, facilities, etc., that's actually a good thing for the United States because it's spurred innovation here, has to be the most ridiculous cope take that I have ever heard on live TV, because in reality, it is because of people like him, companies like Apple and others, which essentially take the semiconductor issue as an example, created the, I think, very unfortunate and over-leveraged situation that we have in Taiwan with TSMC. Yes, it's great that they're opening a factory here in Phoenix, but time and time again, you've seen this playbook unfold, particularly with the tech community that, as we know, is overwhelmingly shows a lot of fealty to China. All they want is market access. But for him to sit up there and say something like that is a good move for the United States, and then to, I guess, explicitly say that he doesn't even care about who actually wins the AI battle, that's pretty blatant and in your face. Like you say, you call him a foreign agent. I would also add, of course, it's fitting that he would do this interview with Fareed Zakaria, who himself has taken these trips to China. He met with the Shanghai Institute for International Studies a few years back, I believe, which is, again, one of these Chinese Communist Party influence United Front groups. So it's no surprise, like I said, that he'd be the one interviewing Jensen Huang. But I think it's important too, right? This is sort of, again, this age-old civil war that I think War Room has been on the right side of since day one, which is us versus, the tech bros. And I think you see, not just through the lens of sovereignty, but this idea, this new sort of China fantasy, this delusion that you hear the David Sachs and the Howard Lutnicks, who I would just advise, the MAGA base is not dumb. We're not falling for your idiotic talking point that we should have China allow them market access to these super advanced chips just so they stay hooked on our technology. They'd get it anyways through IP theft, and the stuff that we're exporting is like 10, 20x, whatever the current export controls are. But that's sort of this new talking point. But I think we've seen, like I said, time and time again, you can't plead ignorance or innocence on this and not understand what these chips mean. I will say just one thing coming from the Chinese side that I think it's important for the War Room posse to sort of stay ahead of. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion back and forth. I remember when we were talking about it with regard to the H20s. Now we're talking about the Blackwell chips. But back in April, it was during a study session, a collective study session during the Politburo meetings. And there was actually some very interesting comments from Xi Jinping talking about how he wanted to potentially pursue sort of a more self-reliant, China first, for lack of a better term, strategy in terms of making advances in AI and the sort of broader chip realm. So I think it's just important to see sort of through that lens, if we're going to see that sort of line of attack come from the Chinese, they want to do it themselves, or I think more likely with what you're seeing just unfold right now, and even just some of the reporting that we've seen come out, that it's likely that these chips are going to be granted, but not and rooted in America First ideology, or I think anything that you or I would support purely through, economic lust and greed at the hands of big tech oligarchs. And whether it's David Sachs or Jensen, take your pick, but very, very misleading and very disingenuous.
I just want to make sure that I understand this and what I heard. Given your study and analysis, there's no real independent companies in China. Remember the Alibaba guy they removed a few years ago? And every now and again they go through and cut out a bunch of these tech guys because they've cut off American technology on social media years ago because they wanted to be able to control it and didn't want to get them too deeply, the Chinese youth too deeply embedded in Western technology. Jensen just said there, correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't matter if a company of the China, which we know is associated with the military-industrial complex of China and normally run by PLA or Chinese intelligence officials. He just sits there and kind of shrugs his shoulders and says it doesn't matter if a Chinese company wins or which side wins this. Did I hear that correctly?
Exactly. And it's not even just companies in China, right? With Article 7 of their national intelligence law, it's basically any company that's vaguely Chinese. They're essentially a dormant state-owned enterprise, right? They could be requisitioned by the state to achieve what they outline as very vague, very broad national security aims. Frankly, NVIDIA and what we're seeing going on with Jensen's lobbying on Fareed Zakaria's show, I think reeks of that. But it's all these companies, right? When Microsoft wants to, cry themselves a river about the fact that they're being hacked, or that, the Chinese engineers, right, who are working on certain Pentagon contracts. It's like, well, you guys built the China government edition of Windows, I believe was Windows 10, that they specifically built for all of China and the Chinese Communist Party to administer the country off of. So I don't exactly feel bad when you're handing over the keys to the kingdom, and then all of a sudden a country that their MO is IP theft, and their MO is also replacing the United States as a global hegemon and using advanced technology and manufacturing to do so. Again, that's not even a quiet plan. Just read Made in China 2025 or any of their Made in China 2025 or any of their 2030 sort of manufacturing ambitions, or what they've been doing with Belt and Road. This is all convergent, right? Jensen Huang can't play, oh, well, it's just about tech. It's about globalism and opening up the borders. And if we can have, tech parity or tech collaboration, that's going to make kinetic conflict less likely. Actually, highly unlikely. And frankly, these people are so misguided to think that we're not even in a time right now, as you always say, in the Third World War. It's just through the paradigm of unrestricted warfare, right? It's not necessarily kinetic, though I would say emboldening them on the economic, information, technological, media, legal, psychological, all the warfare fronts is going to make them a heck of a lot more likely to engage in kinetic warfare. But it's useful idiots, very useful and very idiotic at that. People like that clip you just played, the David Sachs of the world, all of these people who I don't even really think that they could contextualize what is going on with the Chinese Communist Party right now. They view them as a cash cow. They don't understand that they are truly emboldening America's greatest existential threat. And I think, too, Steve, the worst part is that they feel comfortable trying to dupe the MAGA base into trying to support this, right? Trying to say that we actually need to export these chips because it's going to be beneficial for the United States. I mean, that's insulting to my intelligence, to our audience's intelligence. I mean, these people should make the case that we should be handing over enriched uranium to Iran, and then maybe I could find more support there.
Yeah. Natalie, fantastic as usual. Where do people go to your Substack and social media? By the way, your stuff, some topics you choose on occasion are not as boosted on Twitter as others. Am I wrong in that? In that, when I look at that Twitter feed, that some of these things are kind of buried, right? On Twitter.
Case in point,
ma'am?
big tech in China. It's a special relationship.
Just saying. Where
But
do
it's
people go,
Natalie
ma'am?
G. Winters. Natalie G. Winters on X, nataliegwinters.substack.com, where I will not be censored for my China stuff. And as always, Steve, thank you for having me. And happy 1 year. They tried to silence you, but they've only made you broadcast for what now? 6 hours a day. They only made you louder. A fourth of the day. It's quite impressive.
Only way we could do it with great hosts like you and a great team like Grace and Mo and the entire team, our production team here and at RAV. So thank you, man. Appreciate it.
An honor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Boy, does she nail it right there? We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. Now, I'm going to give you some scoop. The president has a event, I think, back at the White House. The president's leaving today. Has an event in the White House late in the afternoon that'll probably be right now covered by the great Eric Bolling before we're back at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That being said, if he's to make that, he would have to leave about 1 o'clock. Now, there's two things out there. Number one, they said the meeting could last 3, maybe even 4 hours. Or he may have to have a hard out at 1, and then Scott Bessent is going to lead the whole delegation for APEC. They are going to go on for a couple more days. And Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, our former colleague and contributor, may take it over here. President may be bouncing at 1 o'clock. We're going to find it all out. We got Forrest from the new federal state of China. We got Dr. Bradley Thayer. We've got Jack Posobiec and things coming up. We're going to get to a bunch of analysis on some of these clips. So stick around. We're here.
Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some RAV fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop RAV, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Thank you for being a patriot. Thank you for standing in the gap.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
Hey, this is SEAL Team from Missouri. I like Real America's Voice because it's real news for real people, and it's real good.
I am
Chris from Illinois. We like to watch Real America's Voice in the War Room with Stephen K. Bannon for all the great guests. Everyone from Kerry Lake, the great Frank Gaffney, Trump 24, Retribution.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Forrest, you're the head of the new federal state of China, this kind of opposition group to the Chinese Communist Party. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, first of all, he got so many things wrong. This is definitely madness. First of all, CCP definitely is not independent. CCP depends on the capitals from the free world. They depend on the technology from the West country to build their military, to build their technology. They steal all those technologies, so they are never independent. Second of all, because of those enablers, collaborators like Jason Wang, CCP becomes stronger and smarter. Think about decades ago, CCP is not that strong, is not that smart. They don't even have anything. They have to rely on the West country, the US, the Japan to build up their technology, to build up their machine. So that's completely wrong. CCP is never independent. Even today, they still keep stealing your IPs, your technology, your money. So the third one is, this is not a simple competition. If it's a simple competition, the goal is to make each other stronger and faster. Yes, of course, it doesn't matter who wins first. But this is a fight. This is a battle between the good and the evil, between two ideologies, the communist versus the free world. You cannot let them win or get there first, because if they get there first, we are doomed. They will kill everyone, because all the dictatorship, they know if there is any free world, if democracy exists in this world, they will be disappeared, because the people in their country, the Chinese people, will realize, okay, there is a better life, a better system for us. Why we follow the CCP under their rule, become a slave? So this is a fight. This is a war. This is not a competition. The last one is he confused. If he got one thing right, I think he said the Chinese has great engineers and smart people. Yes, that's true. But the difference is this, as you and Moscow already told us, the big difference is the CCP is not equal to the Chinese people. Okay, the Chinese people is smarter, hardworking, peace-loving. The CCP is not. They are the dictatorship. They want to destroy all the free world. So that's why you have to decouple. Back in 2017, you and Mao told the free world that we have to decouple from CCP before it's too late. That's why we are facing the situation we are facing in today. So if we take the action, just like Natalie just mentioned, then we don't have to face the situation we are in today. So China is strong. The Chinese people is strong and smarter, and the country becomes stronger and smarter every day. The real question, I think, is whether we need to answer is we need to facing a strong China without the Chinese Communist Party lead, or we are facing a stronger China with the CCP lead, and which they will destroy all the free world. That's the real question we have to answer. And in order to take down the Chinese Communist Party, we have to take bold and decisive actions. And this is not simple competition. So, and I think the BGY also works on GSM.
I want to. How does he actually think that the American people can be sold on the fact that, because when I signed that artificial intelligence proclamation today, we need consensus among the scientists. This is about the drive for artificial general intelligence, AGI, and then for superintelligence. I said a predicate for me is we have to simultaneously, like immediately, stop the CCP from this race. If it's a Sputnik moment, we have to eliminate that, and we can by cutting off capital, technology, training, education, and most importantly, access to these advanced chips. Is he actually think he can convince the American people that this is a rational thing to do, that it doesn't matter, given the track record of the Chinese Communist Party that's killed 250 million of Lao Baijing, of the Chinese common man and woman, with the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution and the collectivization of the peasants, and on and on and on. And I'm not including 450 million forced abortions, 80% which were little baby Chinese girls. The reason society over there is so screwed up, and that Macau is such a not just money laundering center, but also the child and sex trafficking capital of the world, because you have this, for the first time in human history, you have, I don't know, it's like 57 to 60% of the population is male, these kind of driftless, these drifting males that don't have any societal underpinnings to them, no wife, no family, no kids, and no hope of that. Does he honestly think that the American people can be convinced of that it doesn't matter who wins the AI race, and we're just all kind of partners working together? Does he think that because nobody in China that has to live under the boot of these people believe that? Does he expect us to buy that, sir?
Well, I think he believes some of the people in this country, or some of the enablers, the collaborators, will believe in and promote that idea. Look, we probably will have a communist mayor in New York City, where I went to Columbia, right? So a lot of people, unfortunately, in this country has been brainwashed. They think the Chinese Communist Party, and the socialism is better than what we have now. So that's why he's talking about, of course, as I just mentioned, probably BJY, the white part works on him. I don't know whether he has a laptop in control with the Chinese Communist Party, but obviously he's talking for the Chinese Communist Party. So yeah, I think unfortunately there's a lot of people will agree with him.
Hang on for a second, Forrest. You're going to stick around with us through the broadcast. Dr. Thayer, Jack Posobiec just joined us. Dr. Thayer, your response to this, I don't know, happy talk outrage by the richest man in the world, one of the most powerful men in the world, to Fareed Zakaria over at CNN, sir?
Well, my response is it's appalling that he's able to say what he says. He says it with obviously a straight face, but to pick up on the points that Natalie has made and that Forrest has made, that this individual is de facto an agent of influence for the CCP. Xi Jinping needs artificial intelligence. He needs quantum computing, needs biotechnology, and Jensen Huang is doing everything that he can do to ensure that Xi Jinping gets what he needs to get himself out of the economic box that he's in. And thus, he's going to save Xi Jinping, he's going to save the Communist Party, and he's going to save the most formidable competitor that we've ever faced, the United States has ever faced, and the West has ever faced. So I just see Jensen Huang as really, Lenin's rope salesman. He's out there essentially as a PR agent of influence, saying that what we need to do is sell the rope that the CCP is going to use to hang us, to hang the Chinese people, to hang the United States,
I just want to make sure that our audience, it's a quite powerful metaphor. I just want to make sure the audience understands that Lenin used to mock the West by saying the capitalists will sell us the very rope on which we will hang them. And you know what? He was not far wrong, was he, sir?
No, he wasn't. And you always had, during the Cold War, of course, you had agents of influence like Armand Hammer, right, who was Occidental Petroleum, who was very involved in the Soviet Union and helping the Soviet Union with their technology, oil, essentially exploration and production. And Armand Hammer always said the Soviets were great folks, of course. Communism wasn't that bad. And there was nothing to worry about in the Soviet Union. So what we have is something even worse with Jensen Huang, because what he seeks to give Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party is something which will allow the CCP conceivably to defeat the United States in a conflict, a kinetic conflict. It's going to save the most murderous regime, Steve, as you stressed and Forrest and Natalie did in history. And it's going to save that dictator Xi Jinping. So Jensen Huang is the fact that he's the world's richest man now is beyond appalling. The fact that he's able to have these interviews where he is, as Forrest suggested, right, he's seeding the arguments. He's giving arguments to the threat deflation community in the United States to say it's not that bad. There's nothing here. There's no technology, or this is not going to make a difference to the growth of communist China, to the development of their capabilities, when it's going to make all the difference to the growth of their capabilities. So there has to be, whenever, this is such an appalling situation where he's able to go out without any type of disclaimer. You wouldn't expect anything from Fareed Zakaria in terms of pushback, but pushback from other individuals, from the Trump administration and elsewhere, to say this is unacceptable. This
is the pitch he's making to President Trump nonstop, and President Trump admitted. He talked to him the other day. Just hang over a second. Jack Posobiec, thank you for joining us, brother. You're a former naval intelligence officer. When Dr. Bradley Thayer says that Jensen Huang is a part of their driving and putting out the narrative of threat deflation, what does that term mean, sir?
Well, Steve, when we're looking at things like threat deflation, the idea is you want somebody out there from an information warfare standpoint to be seeding the narrative throughout mainstream media, laundering talking points throughout the commentariat that actually this is the Chinese Communist Party are, as Xi Jinping said, they can be our partners, they can be our friends, that we can work clearly with them, that we can work closely with them. When we've seen over the last 30 years that it's been nothing of the sort. And President Trump has been the man throughout that entire time, talking about how it's the Chinese Communist Party prior to Xi Jinping, even back when it was in the days of Deng Xiaoping or Jiang Zemin or Hu Jintao, that they've been ripping off the American people. But here's the key, Steve. Here's the key, and we've said it all along here on War Room, is that it's not just the Chinese Communist Party. They're doing so hand in glove with the American elites, the American 1%. What you're seeing is, as we've said for years, an elite merger between the 1% of China, which is the Chinese Communist Party, and the 1% in America. They are the ones enriching themselves at the exploitation of who and at the oppression of who? The normal, regular people, the Lao Baijing, middle America of both countries. So the people who are caught in the middle of all of this are everybody else. And that's why the working man, the working woman in the United States of America has seen their cost of living dramatically go up, their standard of living dramatically go down. And you can point to, oh my gosh, they've got a couple of big screen TVs, but it's the Chinese Communist Party that's been pocketing the wealth, and President Trump's the only one who ever called it out.
Jack, hang on for a second. Glad you joined us. The meeting in Busan, like I said, we got some information. He might have to leave at 1. That means we're punted. We also heard information that this meeting could take 3 or 4 hours if they really get down to it. We're hoping that it takes longer because we want something to be accomplished today, particularly the fact of we have to face a very hard reality here. How do we get the knife off the neck? President Trump, was dealt a very bad hand here. Let's hope these negotiations doesn't make it worse. But I know the Chinese Communist Party has activated, as Jack just talked about, the elites in this nation, the financial elites, the corporate. We don't have capitalism in this country. We have corporatism. The corporatists, the globalists, the tech bros, the oligarchs, all putting pressure on the Oval Office to come to an accommodation with what Jensen Huang is talking about, the $5 trillion man. Short break. Back in a moment.
Patriots it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
I'm a J6er. I spent 1,143 days in prison.
I'm a J6er, and I spent 3 months in jail and about a year in prison.
I spent 4 years out of an 18-year sentence in prison.
J6ers have been smeared and defamed by the media, persecuted by the government, and treated like terrorists.
In reality, J6ers are patriotic men and women, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers from all walks of life.
Stand in the Gap was founded to stand in the gap for J6ers working to rebuild their lives after being incarcerated.
And we need your help.
For just $10 or more, you're helping these patriots get mental, physical, and spiritual help.
Please scan the QR code or go to j6support.com to donate $10 or more to support these American patriots.
Thank you for being a patriot. Thank you for standing in the gap.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
Hey, this is SEAL Team from Missouri. I like Real America's Voice because it's real news for real people, and it's real good.
Hi, I'm Chris from Illinois, and we like to watch Real America's Voice in the War Room with Stephen K. Bannon for all the great guests. Everyone from Kerry Lake, the great Frank Gaffney, Trump 24, Retribution.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, I want to thank our Real America Voice team for staying up late tonight. We had such success on President Trump's dramatic trip to Israel and over to Egypt a couple of weeks ago that we want to do more of these things, which are of a historic nature and of a game-changing nature in today's news. Jack Posobiec, and thank you for joining us. Before you came on, the President of the United States, I think from the tarmac, right, as he landed in Busan, sent out a Truth Social that kind of like, wow. Talked about nuclear weapons, I guess what the Koreans, North Koreans and the Russians have done over the last 48 hours. But you're a expert. You speak Mandarin. You read Mandarin. You're an expert on the Chinese Communist Party. You've been a naval intelligence officer stationed on mainland China. This whole concept of mandate of heaven and face. I mean, what is she to make of that? President Trump that's about as aggressive as you possibly can get because he puts in there, the Russians are number 2 to us. The Chinese are like a distant third, but they're catching up, and maybe in 5 years, and bang, I'm going to upgrade this. We're going to test, and we're going to be dominant. Why? You know the president pretty well. Why would he choose that moment to send that shot at the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party? Put him on notice, sir.
Well, Steve, think about it, right? What was President Trump doing throughout his entire meeting in an entire tour across Asia, I should say. He's meeting with the Japanese, and what's he talking about? Re-strengthening the Japanese military, taking what they call the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, but then turning it into potentially an offensive navy that conduct operations in the South China Sea to bolster what the United States has been doing and what 7th Fleet has been doing there. Obviously, you've seen the mishaps, but at the same time, they're planning some show of force operations in the South China Sea area, working with the Phils down in the Philippines, working with the South Koreans as well, our partners there. So he's doing what he can to encircle China in terms of strengthening military relationships, and as well as our port basing, being able to go in, cut deals with Vietnam, cut deals with Cambodia, cut deals with everyone, Malaysia, throughout the region. And then what does he do as the coup de grace? Boom. Drops literally a nuke, the N-word, as he likes to say, right before he goes to meet with Xi Jinping. And Steve, what does this remind me of? 2017, the first time that he had that meeting, the sit down with Xi Jinping, just as they're serving the chocolate cake at Mar-a-Lago. What did he do? He ordered the Syria strikes to take place, I believe it was April of 2017. And he turns to Xi Jinping and says through the translator, by the way, we've just bombed Syria.
No, I remember we took a break from the dinner, went down to the skiff that they had set up, and President Trump pulled the trigger. I wasn't a total fan of that because of the limited scale of it. But President, then he goes up nonchalantly to Xi over the chocolate cake and just says, "Oh, by the way, we just sent a bunch of Tomahawks." So you notice how they do the dramatic. Given the concept of face, and particularly Xi is going through, and as our experts have told us over the last couple of days, Thayer and others, he came out of the plenum stronger than ever, not weaker, but stronger, and a greater grip on the military. Why would President Trump take that moment to do it right when you're about to sit down with a guy who, remember, they don't call audibles. When the Chinese play offensive football, they don't call audibles, right? They like a plan set up and boom, they're just going to move the chains that way. So what about the loss of face? How's it viewed among his high command of what President Trump did?
Well, they're certainly going to view this as provocative, and at the same time, the president can easily turn around and point out that they're the ones who've never stopped testing their nuclear weapons, that Russia still conducts tests, that, of course, Kim Jong-un has continued testing in North Korea, and so he's going to easily be able to point out that, he's simply responding to what they're doing. But President Trump knows how to throw these guys off their game. He knows how to keep them off kilter. The Chinese Communist Party, you're right, they don't call audibles. This is an OODA loop. This is the idea: observe, orient, detect, act. So, or decide, act. So President Trump is moving faster than the Chinese Communist Party. President Trump understands how to get inside their decision-making cycle. This is a key move from an information warfare standpoint as well as a military standpoint to say the United States of America is not going anywhere, and we are going to use, once again, peace through strength. That has been the watchword of President Trump, to say, look, we're going to sit down here right now for a deal. We've got those 100% tariffs, which by my accounting, they're already one day ahead. So it's tomorrow, right? Tomorrow in China that those things will take effect if they do not cut the deal. And oh, by the way, if you don't cut the deal, we've got nuclear weapons. We've got the ability to potentially looking at renegotiating the Taiwan Relation Act, get some U.S. basing down there in Taiwan, or have at least restart the port visits from U.S. naval assets down to Taiwan. All of that is potentially on the table, and the president, of course, retains the leverage ability to do so. So it's very simple. Do you want peace, or do you want to go the other route? That's what President Trump is doing here. And Xi Jinping, from his perspective, look, I keep hearing people say, oh, the Chinese Communist Party is on their last legs and Xi Jinping is about to be thrown out. And then all of a sudden, he just gains more strength. He gets rid of people who are rivals to him. He uses all of these tools to get rid of the opposition. And he's been doing so, by the way, for the better part of a decade. So I know some of my fellow China watchers like to say that Xi Jinping is on his way out, and it just never seems to happen. It always seems to be quite the opposite.
Let's go. By the way, the meeting is ending at 1 o'clock, 1 hour and 40 minutes. We just got word of that. I think they're in there shaking hands. It doesn't look like they're going to address the press at all. I would assume, as far as she said, there was preconditions. Here comes the president right now. Let's see if we pick up the audio. chairman is getting in his car. The president's getting in his. An hour and 40-minute meeting. We've heard that it might go as long as 3 or 4 hours, but the president did have something at late afternoon back in Washington with the First Lady. He needed to leave by 1, but an hour and 40 minutes. Brian Kennedy's joined us. We're going to blow some brakes here as we strike close to midnight here on the 29th, for my 1-year anniversary of my release from prison. I'm going to finish the day here with Real America's Voice in the War Room, doing what we love to do best, which is bring you the most important events in world history. Brian Kennedy, the meeting only took an hour and 40 minutes. President Trump, they didn't have a joint press conference. There's the cars going away right now. They didn't have a joint press conference. They didn't even come back to the flags and shake and take anything from the media or even make a joint statement at the end. Your assessment, sir?
Well, great to be with you, Steve. The whole meeting started off in kind of a strange way when Xi Jinping said China has this view of a world where they're successful and President Trump is also making America great again. That is an absolute lie. He knew it. So he started with a fabrication because they want a world where they're the dominant power. They want a world where they're the manufacturing base of the world. President Trump, on the other hand, wants a world where we can manufacture things here in the United States for the good of the American people. Xi Jinping wants a world that is an America, really, I think, that is perfect for the tech bros. President Trump wants a world that's good for the American worker, and those two things are not compatible right now. And so Xi Jinping, we worry about somehow that Xi Jinping might lose face. President Trump has face too. So you insult President Trump when you do that. They started COVID. They have 200,000 men of military age. They have, brought over to the United States during the Biden administration that are causing all sorts of nefarious behavior. They run bioweapons labs secretly in the United States. They steal $1 trillion of intellectual property every year. And so when we think about face here, that goes both ways. And if anybody would have had something that they should agree on first, it would have been President Trump, just asking him to take back those 200,000 men of military age that are here in the United States.
By the way, right there we have on the camera, we have President Trump's The Beast, which is going to go back out to see him off. We're going to follow all of this. Brian, hang on for 1 second. Thayer, hang on. Forrest, hang on. Pasovic. In these meetings, as you know, it all has to be translated. So an hour and 40 minutes is not really an hour and 40-minute meeting. An hour and 40-minute meeting is a meeting that's got, 30 minutes or 40 minutes of content. And when these meetings start, just going around the table, and you're not introducing yourself, but these are very formal and very highly stylized. It's not like sitting around a conference table and actually negotiating a transaction. This is very much, and I think a lot of this comes from the way the Chinese roll. Everything's, because he's an emperor. Everything's very stylized. What could happen? Right there, you see the honor guard. That's the honor guard around Air Force One. You see Ambassador Monica Crowley right there. So the red carpet, they're waiting for the President of the United States. We're going to watch all this press pool coming out. POSO, hour and 40-minute meeting, and it didn't look like any warm, it didn't look like any, a warm hug at the end. Pretty formal. President Trump went, and his team walks away and kind of goes and gets positioned so they can get through the back of Air Force One. You've been on Air Force One many times. There is the president in the Beast at the airport at Busan. The meeting is over. Poso, so your thoughts?
Well, Steve, I think this means we're going to get a very focused meeting whatever we had here. A very focused agenda. This is not something that got into wide-ranging topics. A lot of people asking, was Taiwan going to be broached? Was perhaps Russia, the question of the Russia-Ukraine war, going to be broached? I don't think that probably came up at this point. This, I would imagine, was directly focused on those trade talks, directly focused on whether or not there's going to be a deal, whether or not those tariffs 100% are going to go in effect or not. And of course, you're not seeing the same level of, for example, you don't see him riding around in the Beast with Xi Jinping. You don't see the meeting of the two of them going together like you even saw with Putin, like we saw at the Anchorage Accords that took place a couple of months ago. So, that level of camaraderie, that level of warmth, it's just not there, whether it's not reciprocated from Xi or if it's President Trump saying, look, we're walking away from something, we'll see. But at this point, it's really going to come down to, will the Chinese Communist Party agree to drop their barriers to entry for U.S. manufacturers and U.S. goods to come into China? If they're not going to do so, then quite frankly, the tariffs need to go on and the tariffs need to be ratcheted up, because the PRC is totally dependent on trade with the United States, the golden market of the United States, as you were saying earlier tonight. So if they don't have the ability to export out, they are the ones who will wither from this, not us. We are the ones who want money to stay inside of our borders. We want to increase our own manufacturing. That's what President Trump's backbone is. That's what the Rust Belt wants. That's what Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin and hopefully even New Jersey, where Jack Ciattarelli's got a great shot. Coming up here in a couple of weeks, or really just 1 week. That's what this is about.
Hang on one second. The president's going up the staircase. That was the honor guard of the Republic of Korea Army, some of the toughest hombres in the world. So the president's going up. It's just going to be the president. The rest of the cabinet is going to go through the back entrance. Some of them, in fact, I think will actually stay. Scott Bessent's going to stay. I think Lutnick's going to stay. We had Jameson Greer was at the table next to Lutnick. Ambassador Perdue is the President of the United States. We will momentarily, I'm sure, get a readout of what happened. Is this guy a machine or what? I mean, who can do... I pride myself in travel. I get, 20 million frequent flyer miles or something like that. Nobody can do it like he does it. It's unbelievable. Poso, you've flown in Air Force One many times. The president... Brian Glenn has. I mean, he's not sitting there joking around. He's working the entire time, and he doesn't sleep much. And that's a long flight back. That's a very long flight back. Tell me what it's like to be on Air Force One.
Yeah, Stephen, I have had the absolute honor of traveling aboard Air Force One a number of times now. I've also been in Busan, South Korea, in uniform as well as in civilian attire, having served a number of key resolve exercises there with the United States Navy right in that very port of Busan, South Korea, right on the southernmost tip of the coast of the Korean Peninsula. And, President Trump, when he flies on Air Force One, people have to realize that what he's doing is he's creating the mobile White House, and it is the international White House. So he's set up so that he can work from wherever he is. He's got full connectivity. You've got a joint command center up there from military operations. Should anything be going on around the world, if he needs to plug into any of the COCOMs, he's able to do so. If there's something that pops off in the Middle East, he's got direct connectivity. Of course, they've got secret and top secret systems aboard their sensitive communications equipment and satellite link up. So he's working constantly, and he's on the phone constantly with anyone who is a world leader, any of the deals that he's working on, any opinions that he's trying to get, and he's constantly calling people. It's that he's a New York businessman at heart, and that's exactly how New York works. You're on the phone constantly, trying to figure out what's going on, figuring out who's talking to who, what moves are being made, what deals are being made, and that's exactly who President Trump was when he was the real estate developer President Trump. As he moved into the political game, he's the exact same way. So there's no question in my mind that he's going to be looking at that clock and saying, okay, who's awake in Europe? Who's awake in Asia? Who can I get on the horn? That's who I want to talk to. And he's absolutely going to be doing that the entire way home.
We're going to stick until the Air Force One takes off. So we'll be here for the full coverage. Forrest, an hour and 40-minute meeting that half of that's taken up in translation time. Is this what you're anticipating or something longer?
Yeah, I think this is what I'm anticipate because, as I mentioned, there is already they have the demand already, and I don't expect too much. And besides the commercial agreement, maybe some framework. Of course, we'll give both leaders call it a win, and then we'll give more space or time to talk about deeper things. But the demand is already there.
Dr. Thayer, your thoughts on this? Do you think it was a little abrupt? Were you expecting it to go longer? I know the president had told people, we heard this when he stepped in, that he had a 1 o'clock time to take off. But other people said if things were moving along, they might take a couple hours. Your thoughts?
War with China is a little bit colder now. The Xi Jinping, the demeanor, as we've discussed on the program, as Forrest has stressed as well, is not one who's there was no camaraderie, there was no illusion, if you will, an effort to provide an illusion of camaraderie or happiness to see President Trump. The fact that the meeting was a short meeting, I think I agree with Jack and Forrest. It means that it was focused, and I think we're going to find it was perhaps more contentious than previous meetings have been. And the fact that it was more contentious, I think, revolves around the fact that Xi Jinping is in a hard situation. He's using the tools at his disposal to hurt the United States, to take steps to ensure that the United States is weakened while his position is strengthened to the extent that he's able to do it, and that the subject matter probably did touch on Taiwan, trade no doubt, I would imagine, but certainly on Taiwan. And I think that allows us to see the theme of the events today.
This meeting had three things that had to resolve. You've got a knife to our throat on, and this is President Trump has dealt a bad hand. Okay, you got this situation with rare earths that's got to be addressed. And supposedly it's a 1-year extension that we've heard from agreement on other preconditions, conditions precedent to that, and we don't know what those totally are, but so far they're going to push that restrictions out a year, which means we're not going to have a quite a crisis if you read the analysis of our manufacturing production, even getting things built, number one. Number two, you just had Jensen Huang, the richest guy in the world. Semaphor's got the $5 trillion man, and he's making a hard pitch, subtle yet hard, about it doesn't make a big deal. We've got to let these Blackwell 30s, the most advanced chips, we have to let it, we have to go because they're our partner. And the chips are everything about this artificial intelligence development, correct? These two things are, and then you've got Taiwan, which is also gets back to chips and the ability to defend Taiwan and to really defend those chip plants. Those three things somehow have to get resolved. We've heard that, hey, part of this, a condition precedent to even have this meeting, has got to be some acknowledgement by the United States that, I don't know, is Taiwan independent, or are they really a province of the CCP, and what President Trump and our position is about the military defense of Taiwan if the balloon goes up. Those three things, I realize the trade and the 100% tariffs, they're all important, but they're all kind of subsets of those three big questions. And you have to, if you don't have answers to those, then things get murky. Number one, they do have us on this rare earths, and you got to get some accommodation on that. President Trump's cut a deal with Australia. He's all of a sudden Lula's our best friend, all because of these rare earths and the heavy rare earths and the potential, the processing of it. Brian Kennedy, your thoughts on this? I just think that and we're waiting for the readout, Jack. If you there's Air Force One getting down the tarmac in Busan, South Korea. Spent a lot of time in Korea there, Jack Posobiec. Brian Kennedy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Chinese do have us over a barrel immediately when it comes to these rare earth minerals and metals. But if they want to deny us those, they're just going to accelerate the decoupling of the U.S. economy from China. That'll be crossing the Rubicon if they do that, and Americans will resent it. It will be a huge blow to the U.S. economy, but it will be a huge blow to the Chinese economy too. We can start denying China access to U.S. capital markets. We can force a decoupling financially of American investors from China. We can force repayment on China's defaulted sovereign debt that they've never made good on. And we can start rebuilding the U.S. manufacturing base from top to bottom. We can take on initiatives that the president discussed already, such as Freedom Cities, where we can, instead of engaging in such, computer-based products, we can also start building new American cities where people, instead of sitting at computers, are building houses and building schools and cities and, change our economies in ways that are beneficial to the U.S. worker. And so it's a dangerous game if China thinks they can simply deny us access to a certain kind of product. And it will mean their financial end, in my humble opinion.
Posobiec, your thoughts?
I mean, Steve, look, we've got a tense situation here. The United States, of course, has the ability to rebuild, has the ability to have our infrastructure, our shipbuilding, all this capacity that we want. But at the same time, we can't do this and turn on a dime. The United States, and again, our elites, these multinational companies, have been living large off of what? The imported cheap labor, the H-1Bs, the illegal aliens that they use, as well, and tech, of course, loves the H-1Bs, as well as the Lao Beijing of China. And so using the cheap human capital of China and the outsourcing there that they've been doing all the way back since the 1980s, when all of the all of these deals were really struck originally. So it's been a long time coming, and just like the turning of an aircraft carrier, it does not turn on a dime. So there is going to be an economic tension between the point where we are now and where we're going to be when President Trump is able to get us to a point where we are truly able to either decouple, we're able to reshore, where we're able to actually do some of the things that we want to do. And there's going to be these pressure points along the way. But tariffs are absolutely the effective tool on this. There's no question. And I would just say, the great, I would say on hiatus co-host of War Room, Dr. Peter Navarro, has been proven exactly 100% correct. He's on hiatus because he's on assignment, right, over at the White House. Assignment. But no, he's been just completely proven correct on tariffs, just completely proven correct. No. And all the people who said that the sky is going to fall, the world's going to blow up if President Trump starts using tariffs, were wrong. All of the panicans were completely wrong. And by the way, your NVIDIA stock is going to be doing just fine.
We're waiting right there for the Air Force One. They're getting in position. Forrest, we're going to punch out as soon as Air Force One is up. Closing thoughts tonight, sir.
Yeah, I think I agree with Posobiec. They will definitely take times, even though we have the deal with Australia, with Japan, but we do need time. And because of that, I think there is something, unfortunately, the U.S. has to give up. But we'll see how that works. But remember, this is a time game. I think the midterm is coming, and a lot of people are still watching on the stock market, and that's very important for this country. Whereas the CCP, they don't care about their own people. That's another thing Jason Wang was wrong. They never care about their own people. Thank you.
Look at the magnificent right there, Air Force One. Leaving South Korea, it's been a triumphant tour for President Trump. We're going to get the details of what happened in this, quite frankly, relatively short meeting. Air Force One Now, hurtling towards the United States of America is going to drop the president tomorrow afternoon and our time, and he's got right now I think an event with the First Lady, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and of course we'll cover it here in Real America's Voice. Forrest, where do people go? You're one of the big players on Getter. Where do folks go to get the new federal state, find out more about it, and learn what you guys are up against and what you're fighting every day?
Yes, they can find us on Gather, NFSC TV or NFSC Speaks. They can also find me on Gather, Forrest01.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for staying up with us, and I appreciate it. Jack Posobiec, I know you got to get to bed. You got a couple of young kids. And a wife is saying, Jack, what are you doing up late at night talking about the CCP, right? Your thoughts on this, Posobiec?
Well, no, and I appreciate that, Steve. Actually, and tomorrow we'll be up 2 events. We've got the New Media Summit with General Flynn. We'll be there tomorrow. I'm speaking at about, I think it's 11 o'clock, our panel with Laura Logan, James O'Keefe. And then I'll also be over with CPAC at the Kennedy Center for their summit on the persecution of Christians. So check that all out. And I believe that Rav is going to be supporting both. So really appreciate them being there, really appreciate them able to help us to be able to do what we do. No, Steve, look, this is what it's all about. These things are going to take time. This trade deal is going to be hammered out the way it's going to be hammered out. But look, when you look at what President Trump has done in terms of the team he's put around him, he's got Marco Rubio there. Everybody knows that he's no fan of Rapprochement, that he's someone who's seen as an absolute consummate China hawk. Then you've also got Scott Bessent as well, a guy who understands. By the way, I saw this line the other day on Twitter. I'll have to take it. They say the reason Scott Bessent is the best Secretary of Treasury that America's had probably since the founding is because he's not an economist. He's a trader. He's a guy who actually understands how the market works, who's actually done the job. So he knows, and they know what Bessent has done in the private sector and what he can bring to bear in terms of currency and all the rest. He knows the games. He's played the games. He's won the games. And President Trump's got the team to do it.
And people should know this situation. It's one thing we sit here. I'm a decouplist guy. I'm banned by sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party, the first civilian in history. It's one thing for us to do this analysis. Another thing, Bessent and Trump, President Trump, are two hard-nosed deal makers. This is a enormously complicated situation. When Scott Bessent said the other day, Jack, he said the Chinese economy is in a depression, and she is trying to drag us all down, particularly the United States, into a depression. Scott does not use the D word lightly. No. These are two hard-nosed guys, Trump and Bessent. I think that's why the president appreciates Scott's knowledge of capital markets, and particularly he can translate President Trump's economic plan to capital markets on a global basis. President Trump was dealt a bad hand of cards. The situation with the rare earths that's kind of come up, and she and the Chinese Communist Party will always use as much maximum leverage as they have. People have to understand that. Jensen Huang's thing is all Rebecca Sunnybrook Farms happy talk, flat out. So President Trump's trying to work their way through this, and this is why it's quite complicated, and it's part of a process, so trust the process. Jack, we're going to be covering your events live tomorrow. You're at CPAC with this persecution of Christians. Of course, this new media conference in the morning, we're going to cover that. Hopefully get your speech at 11 o'clock. What's your Twitter handle in between now and then, Jack Posobiec?
Appreciate it, Steve. Appreciate it to the posse. At Jack Posobiec, of course, you can get that across all social medias. Also, if anyone's going to be out in New Jersey, I'll be out there this Sunday afternoon because we don't take any days off. I'll be out there this Sunday afternoon, Toms River, with Turning Point Action. Turning Point Action is deploying for the first time ever to New Jersey for the Jack Ciattarelli campaign for governor. And if you go look at the polls, you go look at some of the early voting, he's got the momentum to actually win this thing and flip the Garden State red. So get in there for the early voting. Come on out. Turning Point Action. We're doing a super chase. We'd love to see you there.
Jack, thank Tanya Tay for letting you stay up past your bedtime. Appreciate you tonight. Great analysis as usual. on our favorite topic, the Chinese Communist Party. Thank you, sir.
God bless, Steve. Wan An, as they say.
Thank you, sir. Brian Kennedy, your thoughts. Thank you for joining us. You're one of our master strategists around here. Give us your take. And by the way, if we get a readout, I'm telling you, if we get a readout, let me see it right away, okay? Because we're waiting with beta. We're kind of hearing some things that went on, but we want to wait till the official announcement by the White House to read out, or if the CCP puts out a readout. Brian Kennedy, thoughts?
Yeah, it's made more complicated, this whole thing, Steve, by the fact that China is still in a people's war against the United States.
Yeah.
And so,
tell people that in 2019, Navarro and the trade rep, Bob Lighthizer, the entire team spent 2 years. I was there for the initial part, 2 years, because Trump didn't want to do some simplistic deal about cows or beef or anything. He said, this is what we're going to do, laid it out. 2 years of daily negotiations. We have a deal that takes care of the 7 original sins of the Chinese Communist Party and integrates them into the global economy. One of the most well-thought-through, detailed deals that Li He, the vice chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, was there the entire time he was the lead negotiator. And Wang Qishan and Xi look at this thing in May of 2019. They have the first really big Belt and Road initiative with Putin right there. And everybody told me in the room, said Putin's like a puppy to Xi. Next thing you know, they come out and Wang Qishan tells Xi, he says, if we do this, we're integrated into the foreign devil's system. Let's not do this. They rip it up. They spit in our face. They immediately say that they're going to decouple on the technology side. Remember, they arrest a bunch of tech executives. So these guys are getting too high and mighty. We're going to decouple from the West. And this, you got Huawei rolling, you get TikTok created, you get DeepSeek, all of it, because they say we're not going to let the foreign devils control us through their technology. And then Xi, in the middle of May, comes out and declares a people's war in the United States of America. So when all these business leaders talk and all the guys on Wall Street talk, and you got all these guys on CNN and all talk, they never want to talk about the facts, right? We then did the skinny deal with them after, by the way, they let loose the pandemic of COVID-19. It's called COVID-19 for a reason, because it came to Earth, right, in 2019, not 2020. In 2020, they had the signing ceremony in the East Room of the White House. They had already declared war on us. May of 2019 is one of the most important months for geopolitics in the 21st century because of their actions. And so all these people that don't have a memory of that, and oh, by the way, might I add, they never upheld anything on the skinny deal. They have never, ever, ever on any agreement, Obama's agreement, Biden's agreement, President Trump's agreement, they have never, ever even done the most minimal thing they could do of when we negotiate these deals with them. They refuse to do it. Circumstances change. That's their byline. Remember, so when Jensen Huang comes on here, the guy ought to be rolled up today. He talks to us like we're children. We're not children, bro. And you're representing and you're a cheerleader from the most murderous dictatorship in the history of mankind.
And you trust them for a minute.
So don't think we don't know the facts. Only people that ignore the facts, and that's why we got to keep putting it out. Brian Kennedy, your thoughts. My rant is over.
No, I mean, in the best of times, you can't trust them. They renegotiate every deal. Whatever they talked about today, whatever they may have agreed to today, could change tomorrow, to your point. I think, not to change the subject at all, but the president's on the plane. He's on his way back to America. I think it's important, Steve, when he gets back to America, if I was giving him any advice, he should have a fireside chat tomorrow night if he could. A lot of Americans are going to lose their food stamps on Saturday, and a lot of those folks are MAGA. I'm not sure the American people fully understand that the reason.
Well, I would say some of those folks are MAGA. A lot of those folks are just gaming the system, right? But there are some MAGA people in there.
That's absolutely true. But regardless, the president should be explaining why the Democrats and Chuck Schumer are doing that to them, and that we're not going to give $1.5 trillion to illegal aliens who've come into this country. I think the political war, which, look, the War Room does this every day of the week. There's a political war going on here at home, and the president really needs to engage in a much more vocal way than he has been. He's been around the world. The American people certainly appreciate that. We're a commercial republic, but now's the time, I think, to look here at home. How do we make things better for the American people? He has a lot of great ideas when it comes to those. He's going to need to start implementing those right away.
So all the exchanges are look like they're in the red right now. Don't know what information they're dealing with. As soon as we know more, we will tell you. Brian Kennedy, a great analysis. Thank you for joining us tonight late. Really appreciate it. Social media, where can people get you, Brian?
On Getter, it's Brian T. Kennedy. On X, it's Brian T. Kennedy 1. And the website is presentdangerchina.org. Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure to be with you.
Brian, I want to have you on next week because you mentioned something that we have not really had a update for the folks of that. The Chinese Communist Party owes us a lot of dough about some bonds, and so I want to get you on next week and explain that so the American people can start to understand how they're stiffing us in certain areas, and it's just not acceptable. So we'll get you back on next week to go through that.
Thank you, Steve.
Brian Kennedy. John Gardner. Is John Gardner, I'm going to take a break at this minute 30. Is that what we're going to do? That's a break? Take a break. We can do whatever. Okay, let's just blow through it because then we can wrap up and go ahead and go home here. Not that we actually are home. Yeah. I'd go all night, but my producer gives me stink eye after we go on too long. John Gardner, you were magnificent today. President Trump just left after an hour and 40-minute meeting. Some news organizations saying how she was nice and pleasant. They must have not been in the room or watching what we watch. Your thoughts, sir?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. We can't trust anything the Communist Party agrees to. They reneged on their Trump term 1 agreements after they dragged them out to the end. They took they built the Spratly Islands out of sand in the ocean, promised in 2015 they wouldn't weaponize them, had advanced weapon systems on 2016. They took Hong Kong. I think the contract was not to take it till 2015. I think President Trump knows by now that he can't trust them, but he's in a tricky position. We imported $430 billion worth of goods from communist China in 2024. We are relying of the 35 critical minerals in 2022 numbers. We were 100% reliant on communist China for 12 of those. 100% reliant. The other ones we get from other places, but they're still critical. So President Trump's been put in a little tough of a situation. We get a massive amount of electronics from communist China, APIs and precursors to pharmaceuticals, chemicals. Yep. The pharmaceutical things, I think President Trump's handling that in other ways with India and other allies and starting to reshore some of that. But the thing we're kind of stuck on is the rare earth thing. And I think that's why Xi used his biggest leverage weapon when he did. But I think Communist China is hurting a lot more than America right now. $438 billion worth of imports will cripple them if we ratchet this up. So I think President Trump's trying to buy time as we build our own rare earth refining capabilities and create these deals in Australia and Africa, maybe Brazil, to bring rare earth minerals in. So this is a very volatile. Once we get to the point where we're not relying on communist China anymore, they know that's coming. President Trump is doing that. And it's going to be quite a move. What's going to happen next? When they're faced with their economy being crippled, possibly, and we're becoming more independent. That's kind of the scenario pre-World War II. Japan and Germany were massive industrial powerhouses that then wanted to expand. So this is a critical situation.
John, you're leading an effort to make us a manufacturing superpower. You're doing it a different way with these small manufacturers. Where do people go for your social media? Where do they go for your site to find out more about your crusade, sir?
On X, John Gardner, VOH, on Getter, MFG Gear Official, and my website, johngardnerauthor.com. And my book here is Manufacture Local, How to Make America the Manufacturing Superpower of the World. So,
thank you for staying up late tonight with us. We always appreciate you, John. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Okay, so to be determined. Remember, the three big things are, of course, you've got to get the trade and the tariffs. And, you know, I happen to think that what President Trump's doing on the trade side is magnificent. First time she and these guys ever had the squeeze put on them. But you've got this situation with rare earths. You got the situation with the AI chips, the advanced chips, and you got the whole situation with Taiwan. So we'll get this. I'm sure the president of these United States may actually put out a Truth Social. I'll take the over on that, okay? I bet he's going to do some on the plane on the way back. I think a lot going on. Scott Bessent is remaining. He's going to head up the delegation to remain there at APEC, and I think that shows the confidence that the President of the United States has in Scott. So good job. We're going to see you back. I want to thank Real America's Voice, the Denver crew. Thank you guys for staying up. Parker and Rob Sig, thank you. I think the more we do these things, the more the audience appreciates the fact that we're trying to give them the most important breaking news in the world as it happens. The first cut of history, the first draft of history is no longer Time Magazine. It's Real America's Voice and the War Room. We'll see you back here. Make sure you keep the dial to RAV. They're going to have the morning show here in a little while. We'll be back at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We got a ton of stuff to cover tomorrow. You got General Flynn, the new media conference. You got CPAC with the Christians. We're going to be all over breaking news early in the morning. We got a bunch lined up. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock, I am going to do a very special interview I've been working on with Brother Katz in Israel, wrote this epic book, While Israel Slept. It's about the lead up to October 7th and what happened thereafter. This book is, quite frankly, I think a masterpiece. They're going to spend an entire hour. He's going to spend an entire hour and break it all down for us. Until 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow morning. We will see you. And then you'll be back in the war room. We're going to leave you the files. Quo. Take down the CCP. See you tomorrow morning at 10.
CCP 还能让我们远离恐惧。Take down CCP. They try to scare the nation with fabrication, but we see through the lies. We won't fall, we will fight you back. Police corruption with crooked assumption. They ran our lives, but no more. We will win. We will take down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long. We will end what they do wrong. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. Let's take down the CCP. Let the bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. Let the bullets fly a little longer. 站起来吧 Let the bullets fly a little longer. 站起来吧 Let the bullets fly a little longer. 被奴役的人们 Let the bullets fly a little longer. 行动 Let the bullets fly a little longer. 行动 Let the bullets fly a little longer. 完了 Let the bullets fly a little longer. Take it down. Let the bullets fly a little longer. Bullets fly a little longer, and you will surrender. Let the bullets fly a little longer. We will have freedom to live. We will win. You'll surrender. Let the CCP take it down. 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 Take it down. The evil CCP.
This has been a live special report. We now join our programming already in progress.
Me or referenced as this moment of the powerful moment that helped encapsulate the memorial at State Farm Stadium was your speech. You had 4 minutes.